You know, in the grand scheme of human history, a single century's just a blink of an eye. But in the 20th century, wow, something totally unprecedented happened. Our population absolutely exploded. Today, we're going to look at that incredible growth and the innovations in birth control that came right along with it.
Just let this number sink in for a second. 7.2 billion. By the year 2011, that's how many of us were living on planet Earth. To put that into perspective, it took all of human history, all the way up to the year 1800, for us to even reach 1 billion people.
And this timeline, it just shows you the incredible speed of that change. In 1900, the world population was sitting at 2 billion. 100 years later, it had tripled to 6 billion. Just think about that. In the span of one lifetime, we added 4 billion people to our planet.
So how did we get here? And more importantly, what did we do about it? We're going to start with the crisis itself, and then we'll try to define what makes an ideal contraceptive. After that, we'll dive into two of the oldest approaches out there, natural and barrier methods. Okay, let's get right into it. What exactly lit the fuse on this population explosion? And what were the real-world consequences when the planet suddenly became so crowded?
Well, the funny thing is, this whole boom was a side effect of incredible progress. Thanks to advances in medicine and sanitation, people were living longer. Fewer mothers were dying during childbirth, and way more babies were surviving infancy. It really created the perfect storm for explosive population growth.
And you could see this story playing out all across the globe. Just take India as an example. When it gained independence back in 1947, its population was about 350 million. Fast forward to the year 2000, and it had soared past the 1 billion mark.
This wasn't just some abstract problem for scientists to worry about. This kind of alarming growth created a very real fear. Would we be able to provide the most basic things like food, shelter, and clothing for everyone? So in response, governments really had to scramble for solutions. In India, public health campaigns started using these really catchy slogans like this one, Hum Do, Hamare Do, which basically translates to we two, our two, as a way to encourage families to have just 2 children. And it wasn't just slogans. Governments started making legal changes, like raising the minimum age for marriage, and they even offered incentives to couples who chose to have smaller families. In a lot of cities, a one-child norm actually became pretty common.
Now, public campaigns were one part of the solution, but the other, much more direct approach was contraception. So that begs the question, what exactly makes a contraceptive method ideal?
Well, according to health experts, it has to meet a whole checklist of criteria. It needs to be easy to use and easy to get. It has to be effective, and you should be able to reverse it. And crucially, it should have very few side effects, if any, and it shouldn't get in the way of sexual desire or activity.
The methods that are available today can pretty much be grouped into these broad categories. For the rest of this explainer, we're going to zero in on those first 2 foundational types, natural and barrier methods.
Okay, first up are natural methods. These are some of the oldest forms of family planning out there. The core principle is really simple. They work by avoiding intercourse when pregnancy is most likely. No medicines, no devices, just timing.
The one you've probably heard of is periodic abstinence, sometimes called the rhythm method. It's all about tracking the menstrual cycle to pinpoint that fertile window, which is usually between day 10 and 17, when ovulation is most likely to happen. By avoiding intercourse on those days, conception can be prevented. A couple of other methods fall into this category too. There's withdrawal, which depends on the male partner pulling out right before ejaculation, and then there's lactational amenorrhea. This one's fascinating. It turns out that intense breastfeeding right after childbirth can naturally stop ovulation for up to 6 months, acting like a temporary contraceptive.
And this slide really nails the central trade-off here. The pros are obvious, right? No side effects, and they don't cost anything. But, and it's a big but, the cons are significant. The chances of failure are pretty high, and these methods take an incredible amount of discipline and timing to work well.
All right, let's move on to our next category, barrier methods. And as the name suggests, these methods work by creating a physical wall that literally stops sperm from getting to the ovum. The most common one, of course, is the condom. These are just thin rubber or latex sheets, and they come in versions for both men and women. You use them just before intercourse, and they prevent semen from entering the female reproductive tract. Plus, they're disposable and can be self-inserted, which gives users privacy. And here's why the condom became such a huge deal in public health. It does more than just prevent pregnancy.
It also provides crucial, life-saving protection against sexually transmitted infections, and that includes HIV/AIDS.
Now, for females, there are a few other barrier options, like diaphragms, cervical caps, and vaults. These are basically reusable rubber devices that get inserted into the reproductive tract to cover the cervix. They're often used along with spermicidal creams or jellies, which add another layer of protection by killing sperm.
So the key takeaway here is that barrier methods offer immediate, on-demand effectiveness without affecting the body's hormones. That's a huge plus. The downside? Well, they do require correct and consistent use, they can interrupt spontaneity, and some people might have allergic reactions to the materials. So, today we've gone from the global challenge of a population explosion all the way to two of the most fundamental methods of contraception. Both natural and barrier methods offer ways to manage fertility without any hormonal side effects.
And before we wrap up, I have to emphasize this point because it's absolutely essential. Choosing any contraceptive method is a personal medical decision. It should always be made by talking with a doctor or another qualified medical professional who can help you weigh the options based on your health and your lifestyle.
But what about the next level of birth control? What about the more advanced, long-term, and even permanent options? Well, we're going to explore the world of IUDs, contraceptive pills, and surgical methods in our next explainer. See you then.